Welcome everybody to the June 8th meeting of our nonprofit plant-based nutrition organization of Wisconsin, or PBNOW. I'm your host, Terry Lynch, your confused host, Terry Lynch, I guess. But the mission of our nonprofit group is to educate, inspire, and support each other on an evidence-backed, whole plant food-based nutritional path for health and improved quality of life. Our group is open to everybody, those plant-based and those just curious about it, and it's meant to be a non-judgmental place to come get information, inspiration, and support. If you'd like more information about our group, our upcoming meeting dates, speakers, resources, or to check out videos of our past meetings, just Google us at pbnow.org. That's pbnow.org. As we do each time, can I see a show of hands, either by raising your hand or using the thumbs up icon on Zoom, on the bottom of your Zoom screen, to show how many of you are currently following a plant-based lifestyle? They're popping up there. All right, I'd say that's a third to half. That's great. As we mentioned at the beginning of most meetings, the evidence of the benefits of plant-based nutrition in improving health quality of life for people of all ages, as published in non-biased medical research, is quite striking. Whether it's improving health through increased energy, weight loss, preventing, slowing, stopping, or reversing problems like allergies, digestive problems, diabetes, heart disease, and even early dementia, or increasing our quality of life by helping us feel better quickly, strengthening our immune system, increasing endurance, improving athletic performance, speeding recovery from exercise, reducing joint pain, clearing thinking, or allowing you to jump by tall buildings in a single bound, reducing the physical and emotional and financial side effects of the illnesses, drugs, and procedures often recommended to treat the conditions plant-based nutrition can help us avoid. The research shows that our bodies do a wonderful job of healing themselves if we stop damaging them daily with poor nutrition and start giving them the nutrition they need to heal and function optimally. It's quite remarkable. Now, let me tell you what's in store for you tonight. Tonight, we're going to hear from two speakers. I'd mentioned that due to conflict, our PBNOW medical director, Josh Lieberman, who is scheduled and is usually our first speaker, is going to be unable to be with us tonight. But our first speaker will be a PBNOW favorite, plant-based chef Amberly Childs. Following Amberly will be our featured speaker, if we can connect up here, another PBNOW favorite, plant-based pioneer, Dr. Michael Klaper. Tonight's program should end around 7:30. And as a reminder, we have meetings every month, usually on the second Thursday of the month at 6 o'clock Central Time. Next month, Thursday, July 13th, we'll have two featured speakers, both from Milwaukee here. Dr. Josh Lieberman is going to do an extended talk, and then nurse practitioner Becky Schultz, who we've had once before, will also talk. And we'll post more information about our next meeting and other upcoming meetings. We've got some great speakers coming up later on in the year, too. That's at our website, pbnow.org. If you register on the website or are already registered, you'll receive email reminders of our events as they approach. Quick technical note, during the meeting, everyone but the speakers will be muted, and we ask that you stay muted to avoid background noise and allow everybody to hear the speakers. With that, let's get started. Our first speaker will be familiar to many of you. She was trained as and certified as a plant-based cooking instructor in the Food for Life program run by Dr. Bernard Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine in Washington. She is the founder and operator of the Milwaukee company Plant Joy, through which she offers an expanding menu of pickup and home-delivered plant-based meals, providing an easy way for people to incorporate plant-based nutrition into their daily lives. You can find more specific information about Plant Joy at plantjoy.net. I asked her tonight to give us a plant-based cooking tip and to update us on her current activities and clue us in about an upcoming new Milwaukee plant-based option for eating out. I'm extremely happy to welcome back plant-based chef Amberly Childs. Amberly?
Hello. Hi, everybody. So good to see you all. It's been a while. It feels like it's been a little bit longer, that pandemic thing that happened. But it's so good to be back. It's so good to see you all and to see a lot of familiar names on the screen. So that's great. Because for me, I think I've been plant-based for almost 12 years now. And so, the longer I'm in it, right, the longer I'm living my life and doing my lifestyle, you kind of forget sometimes what it was like when you first started and what your questions were, or maybe when you were maybe only in it for a couple years and you were trying to maybe pull over a family member or two to like, entertain, this putting more plants on their plate. And so it's so amazing to see so many of you that have been on here since I started with Terry. And so, yeah, so it's just great. So I just want to congratulate you on your commitment to a plant-based lifestyle, because I think that really matters. And sometimes when we kind of get in, what am I making for dinner tonight? What am I doing this weekend? Life is happening. We forget that the path we're on maybe, and that we are doing good work. So congrats to all of you for staying your course. And so tonight I'm going to give a couple updates, but before I do, I wanted to share a really super recipe that I'm absolutely in love with. I'm making it like every couple days, and my husband keeps asking for to do it more again and again. I shared it in the chat comment. So if you open up your chat box, if you go to the bottom of your screen, you see the little button that says chat. If you open up the meeting chat, I shared a link there already. It's a berry fruit salad. You can click on it now, you can click on it later, but basically it is so simple, right? We're gathering fresh berries. Okay, the recipe calls for blackberries. I don't like blackberries personally, so there's too many seeds in them. So I got rid of the blackberries and I put in grapes. So you could really take out any fruit here that's not a favorite of yours and replace it with something else. So anything goes with berry fruit salad. But in there are strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, and then you mix it together. You chop up a little fresh mint. Mint is a wild herb. You literally cannot kill it. It is so hard to kill. So I grow my mint in a pot, okay? And when the season ends, I put it in my garage. I bring it out in May, and then it starts growing again. And that's all you have to do. It's so unbelievably hard to kill mint. I like to keep it in a pot because mint is wild and it will grow and infest itself into all of your other plants. So if you have a nice little garden set up, it's going to get into your tomatoes and whatever's around it. Kind of like chamomile. It loves to grow and spread itself. So I like to keep my mint contained, but it's wild. It grows back every season. However, I just picked up a new batch of wild mint from the West Dallas Farmer Market a couple weeks ago. It was called pineapple mint. So when you rub the leaves and you smell it, it literally has a half pineapple, half mint smell. They had strawberry mint. They had your typical like spearmint, peppermint, but I was really impressed. So anyways, I got the pineapple one. I love it. And that's the one that I've been using nonstop. So you're going to chop your mint. You're going to then put a tiny bit of maple syrup or agave. If you don't want to use a sweetener or you're really on a low glycemic diet, skip that part. The fruit is sweet enough in itself. And then a couple tablespoons, I think the recipe calls for 2 or 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. If you don't have lemon juice, you could use lime juice and it would easily be fine. Mix it all together, chill it, eat it straight. The mint brings out such a wonderful flavor with the strawberries. It's almost like you're eating a fresh mojito that's good for you. So check out that recipe. I want to share that with you all. It's in the link. For some reason, if you cannot access it through the link, I'll share it with Terry as a PDF and you can access it that way. So where's Amberly been? What's been going on? Why haven't we seen you in 6-8 months? So here's what's been going on. So Plant Joy, yay, our little plant-based food business has been growing and expanding. And so there's a couple new ways that you can access healthy food. Currently, we've been delivering to people. We have a meal prep and we cook every Monday. We deliver directly to you on Tuesday. If you don't want us to come to your home or your residence, or maybe you have, a lock and key apartment that it's difficult to access, we're more than happy to deliver to a couple of our pickup locations around town. Places like River West Co-op, North Avenue Market. We're all the way down in Pops Muskego, their marketplace down there. So we're trying to get ourselves a little bit all around town. So those of you who in different places, not just in the heart of Milwaukee, can access some really good food as well. And then the thing I really was excited to share with you all tonight is as of 1 month ago, 4 weeks ago, Plant Joy opened up inside the North Avenue Market food hall. So the North Avenue Market is located in Milwaukee. It's a food hall. It's a bar. It's like a hangout area. You can, host your book club there. You can take your kid there. It's accessible to all ages, different families, different sizes, but we opened a little bitty booth there. And so Tuesday through Sunday, they're off on Mondays. You can access North Avenue Market, go to the Plant Joy booth, and you can have a soup. You can have a salad, you can have a plant-based bowl, and we sell hot dishes there. So they make their own rice, fresh rice on site. So this week, for example, we're selling our veggie curry and our mushroom stroganoff there over rice. So you can get fresh Plant Joy food, and you can also get some of our packaged salads and bowls, take those home or eat them there. So that's a really great new spot, new location that you all can drop in. If you want to take it home, that's great. Like I said, you can eat it there. We're really happy about our partnership with North Avenue Market. It's a great little food hall, and a little backstory here. But when I connected with them, I wanted them to be a pickup location for our customers so they could go in, see this cute little market, and then pick up their plant-based food from us. And they said to us, we have a huge request for vegan food. What do you know? They're like, plant-based people are coming in here looking for plant-based options all the time. So that's what I want you all to hear. Even though you might think that it's difficult from time to time, or you might think that our options are slim to none, our options are improving, our options are growing. The price of plant-based milk is decreasing. And so, I think that these are really positive signs for those of us who are engaged with our health, who are engaged with our lifestyle, and we want to make this a change and something that we're doing forever and ongoing. So if you're in the area, the North Avenue Market is at North Avenue and 59th Street. 59th Avenue and North Avenue. And that's in Milwaukee. 53208 is the zip code there. And then I'm going to spend like 2 minutes, and then I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Klaper because I'm so excited. I see him on the screen here. He's logged in. And so I know you all are chomping at the bit to hear from him because I know he delivers one heck of a presentation. So the last thing I'll leave you all with is we have been listening to you. We are responding, and Plant Joy, we are in the process of expanding. We purchased property. We have brick and mortar now. And so we are going to be opening Milwaukee's first vegan and plant-based deli. And it is going to be at Blue Mound and 63rd Street. So it's right off the interstate. You can get in or off from Howley or at 68th. Blue Mountain, as you know, runs parallel with the interstate. So it's really quick. If you're coming in from Whitefish Bay, it takes you 15 minutes to get through downtown and roll it around. If you're coming in from Waukesha, same thing. You'll be there in 20 minutes. So we are under construction. I'm working with we're doing our architectural design. I'm building out a kitchen. I have a 20-foot hood going in. I'm building a cooler that connects to a freezer and all kinds of crazy, amazing stuff that I never thought I would be doing as a chef. But it's amazing, and it's going to have grab and go. It's going to be a deli. It's going to have all of our Plant Joy items, our no tuna salad that you all love so much. You're going to be able to stop in, grab it, take it home. We're going to have fresh meals, frozen meals to go. We're still going to run our meal delivery service because we know some of you just say, hey, I just wanted to show up. But then for the rest of you, you're going to be able to pop in and come in and say hi and look over the counter and look me face to face and say, I want to get that Reuben, please. So we're really excited. There's a lot of stuff coming. We're going to be adding a blog to our website so you all can see the progress and all the crazy things that my husband and myself are getting into. So stay tuned for that. There's more plant-based options coming. So I've done enough talking for now. I'm excited for Dr. Klaper's presentation. So if anybody has any questions, okay, see Warren does not see the link. Let me drop the link in again, because I'm wondering if you only got the link if you were only in the meeting at that time. So I just resent the link. And hopefully you're able to access that now. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate your feedback. It's very wonderful to hear. And we need your support because, it's teamwork to make the dream work, right? The more of us that keep eating plants, the more times we're going to roll in to get our coffee and they're not going to upcharge you for that plant-based milk, Have a good evening, everybody, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks a lot, Amberly. Say, can you put that address again of the North Avenue Market in the
Sure.
chat as well?
Sure.
And where did you see, and we will update people as you get, if you update me as you get closer to opening up so that we can get you that address. If I remember right, is that not too far from American Family Fields?
Yeah, it's really close. There's actually Rounding Third. If you know where Rounding Third is, or the Fruit Ranch, we're right next to those. And the Rounding Third, I think, has a shuttle that goes. So we're close enough to be in shuttle range.
So you could
of
do
that.
So we could hop in, call in, get some tailgate food before we head over to the game, right?
That is exactly what I said to my husband. I said, you know what? We're going to be serving up plant-based food before the baseball games. You stop here, you get on the shuttle next door, you head into the game, and you didn't have to worry that they only had crappy hot dogs and
yeah,
other
because
stuff.
there's next to nothing at the stadium from somebody who was at the stadium yesterday for the 6th time or 7th time this year. So thank you so much, Emily. That's exciting.
Thank you all. Oh, and we're looking to open the deli around January is our scheduled opening. But we'll keep you all in the loop on that. So have a wonderful night and we'll see you soon.
All right. Well, our featured speaker tonight is, again, one of our favorites. We're about to get the Dr. Klaper fix, our annual Dr. Klaper fix. He is a plant-based icon. Physician for close to 50 years. He's a pioneer in the use of plant-based nutrition and has helped thousands of people lead healthier, happier lives. He's also a passionate and devoted educator of physicians about the importance of nutrition in clinical practice. An author of books and articles, he speaks at healthcare conferences both in and outside the United States. He's been featured in healthcare documentaries, and in 2017, he was given the Plantrition Project Luminary Award. Now, this is an award given each year at the International Plant-Based Nutrition and Healthcare Conference, and it's given to individuals who have done exemplary jobs during their careers, advancing whole food plant-based nutrition as the foundation of disease prevention, suspension, and reversal. Other winners of this award are other icons in this field, such as Dr. Dean Ornish, Dr. T. Colin Campbell, Dr. Neil Bernard, Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, names most of you are probably familiar with. Our speaker will be talking to us tonight from Austin, Texas. It's both a privilege and a delight to welcome tonight's featured speaker, Dr. Michael Klaper. Dr. Klaper.
Thank you, Terry, and thank you for the invitation to address this august body. And I make no secret of the fact I have a soft, warm spot in my heart for all things Wisconsin. I've spent my teenage summers up on my uncle's dairy farm up in Lang Lake County, up near Rhinelander and Eagle River. My oldest niece, Dr. Rebecca Klaper, is the Dean of Freshwater Biology at the University of Wisconsin at Milwaukee, right where the Milwaukee River pours into the Lake Michigan. And she runs the freshwater biology lab there. And so I'm constantly checking in on how Rebecca's doing there. She's now Dean Klaper at the school. It's wonderful to be able to connect with people in Wisconsin and Milwaukee in particular, and good for you guys for keeping the plant-based flame going as well as you do. So fasten your seatbelts. It's going to cover a lot of information, but hopefully a number of things will go by when we talk about how a plant-based diet actually reverses disease. You'll say, oh, is that how that works? And if you get even one of those out of tonight's lecture, yay, it'll be a success. So that's the purpose of what I'm trying to do here, is to reinforce your understanding of exactly how and why a plant-based diet creates all these wonderful health-enhancing effects. So we're going to be talking about general mechanisms, and then two specific diseases, clogged arteries and type 2 diabetes, how plant-based diet reverses them. We'll go through a quick list of other diseases that respond to whole food plant-based nutrition, talk a bit about overcoming obstacles, and look at some allies that can help you or your loved ones on their journey to better health. So many of you know that in the middle of my career for 8 years, I was on the staff at True North Health Center in Santa Rosa, California, about an hour north of San Francisco. And there we had people come in with the standard Western diseases, obesity, clogged arteries, showing up as high lipids, high blood pressure, rampant type 2 diabetes, and a host of inflammatory diseases that affect every organ system from guts to joints to immune system. By the way, Terry, did you hit the record button?
Yes.
You did. Good. All right. Great. Okay. This is the disease spectrum that most primary care doctors in North America deal with on a daily basis. And the usual response is to just raise the dose of beta blockers and insulin and say, come back in a month and you ought to lose some weight. I have no idea how to do it, but it's pretty impotent kind of medicine there. Well, at True North, people brought these diseases, but instead of raising their doses of insulin and beta blockers, we put them on a diet of whole plant foods. And this is breakfast of oatmeal and fruit and sunflower seeds and plant milks. Lunches and dinners for colorful salads, hearty vegetable soups, big plates of steamed green and yellow vegetables, colorful stir fries and chilies and soups and stews, and lots of fresh fruits for dessert. This was the food stream that we would run through their tissues 3 times a day, day after day, week after week, and month after month. Some people came there for 2-3 months and created these tremendous changes in their body. And the changes we would see were nothing short of spectacular. Within days of going to a whole food plant-based diet, the obesity begins, not instantly disappears, but it begins to melt away. The arteries begin to relax and dilate. The high blood pressures come down. The sore joints respond to the anti-inflammatory nature of the foods, and so the joint pain starts to resolve. They often have their first good bowel movement in years, and the whole universe starts looking better to them after that event happens. If they come in with high blood sugars and type 2 diabetes, their blood sugars start to go down as their insulin receptors open up. The folks with the eczema and the psoriasis know that those lesions begin to heal. The asthmatic folks use less inhalers, they wheeze less, they get better night's sleep. And we get patients like Emily, from originally one of Dr. Furman's patients, but same basic program. She originally, when she was looking like this, she was on 20 units of insulin and on 2 medicines for high blood pressure, went on a whole food plant-based diet. 11 months later, this Emily turns into this Emily, normal blood pressure, normal blood sugar, all for medications. I tell the medical students, what greater gift, what greater transformation could you want for your patients than to help them truly regain their health, not just control their symptoms? And so the issue is how to get people to change what they eat, the $64 question, of course. And it won't come as any surprise to anybody watching this program who is in the plant-based aficionado club that a standard Western diet based on meats and dairy and oils and sugars and processed foods sends meals like bacon, eggs for breakfast and cheeseburgers for lunch and chicken for dinner and ice cream for dessert. Meal after meal sends waves of saturated fat through the bloodstream, turning the blood fatty for hours. And during this time, the arteries are injured, obesity is increasing, insulin resistance is getting worse, inflammation is going up, and most people are keeping their blood fatty all day. We don't tolerate hunger in the society, and when people are hungry, they head for the convenience store, the restaurant, and put more fat and oil and sugar and animal flesh into their intestinal tract. But there's more than just fat in this blood here. It's a high salt diet. There's salt in the meat, salt in the cheeses, salt in the fries, salt in the chips, salt in the sausages. It's a high sodium diet, and the sodium stiffens our arteries, makes us retain fluid. This raises our blood pressure and increases the risk for heart attacks and strokes and heart failure. But also, we're finding out that high salt diets open the gates to autoimmune diseases like lupus. Who knew that? But we know that now. So the salt load carry in the bloodstream after one of these meals is no friend of the owner of the arteries. And then there's sugar, eating sugar as a food. I'm not talking about a teaspoon of maple syrup in your tea as a sweetener. That's how it's supposed to be used as a flavoring. I'm talking about eating sugar as a food. When you eat a cookie or a donut, even a vegan cupcake or vegan candy bar, you are flooding your tissues with grams and grams of fructose, lactose, maltose, dextrose. These are oxidizable sugars that stick to proteins all over the body. And then a nasty piece of chemistry begins to happen. The bakers know when they add sugar in the pastry flour to the protein in the wheat gluten, the sugar sticks to the protein, and they put it in the oven and they oxidize this sticky protein, and it turns into bread crust. The protein gets oxidized, turns into these advanced glycation end products that are loaded with free radicals. You don't want to eat a lot of bread crust. You don't want to eat a lot of overbaked cookies there. They cause damage to cells and your chromosomes. It's one thing to run this reaction on the surface of a French baguette, but you don't want to run this Maillard reaction that's oxidizing the glycosylated proteins to turn into free radicals. You don't want to run that in your tissues, and that's exactly what happens when we flood our tissues with these sugars. Our own body heat does what the baker's oven does, and it creates these advanced glycation end products. We either create them in our own body from the sugars we eat, but if you cook the carbohydrates at high temperatures, like making potato chips, that creates these AGEs as well. The problem with these AGEs is that they damage proteins all over the body. You don't want to run the Maillard reaction in the lens of your eye. It's a great way to give yourself cataracts. You don't want to run the Maillard reaction in the elastin fibers of your skin. It's a great way to turn your skin to an old suitcase. And you want to run the Maillard reaction on the inner lining of the blood vessels of your brain. I'll show you what that does as a contributing factor to Alzheimer's dementia. Even though the cooking of the carbohydrates or eating them, the refined carbohydrates, fruits don't do this, but the refined carbohydrates do. They add a lot of AGEs, but it turns out the major source of these damaging AGEs is cooking animal muscle. Any AGEs in the potato chips are dwarfed by the amount of AGEs generated when you grill the burger, fry the chicken, or grill the bacon. And so this is really where most of the AGEs in the body come from. And if you run the Maillard reaction and all the free radicals that are generated here, they damage the inner lining of the arteries. And this is what happens. Here are the middle cerebral arteries, the brain arteries of two men who died at the same age. This man up here did not have Alzheimer's dementia. This man did. And you can see the man with the Alzheimer's, his arteries are thickened and swollen and full of inflammation and free radicals, a major contributor to Alzheimer's. So vegan junk foods are not your friend. And so the chips and the schmips and the bips and the candies and the cupcakes, even though they're vegan, are no friend to your arteries. We want whole food, plant-based food like it was growing in the garden. That you can, oh, there's a cucumber, there's a tomato. Those are the foods we want you to eat. This is not food. This is edible food-like substances out of brightly colored packages and boxes, but this is not food. Now, but this, you can eat this and hurt yourself as a vegan. So just being vegan is not a guarantee that you're not going to hurt yourself with your food choices. I wanted to make this point clear before we talk about the diet that most Americans really eat, that most of our friends and relatives and medical patients are eating, and that is a meat-based meal. Every meal has a piece of animal muscle in the middle. If it doesn't, you get angry at the waiter saying, "Where's my protein?" And when you add meat to any meal, this is what floods through the tissues for hours afterwards. I don't have time. I could spend 2 lectures just going through the toxins on this slide, but here's what every meat-based meal floods through your tissues. The grilling the burger, the frying the bacon oxidizes the cholesterol in the animal muscles. That these particles of oxidized cholesterol are the particles that work their way into the walls of the arteries, setting off atherogenic atherosclerotic plaque formation. You oxidize the carbohydrates and the proteins in the meat. You're going to create these reactive aldehydes that damage genes that call forth the enzymes in your cells. Why damage your genes after every meal? New 5-GC is a sialic acid that only animals make, and it causes inflammatory reactions throughout the body. And our paleo friends are giving themselves a shot of New 5-GC 3 times a day. Endotoxin comes from the bacteria in the slaughterhouse that coat the bacteria, that coat the meats coming out of the slaughterhouse. The bacteria die and their cell walls turn into the stuff called endotoxin that makes the gut leaky. Eating meat summons up bacteria that produce trimethylamine oxide that drives cholesterol into the artery walls. Cooking animal muscle inevitably creates cancer-causing amines that smear on the stomach wall, giving stomach cancers, on the colon wall, giving colon cancers. You eat meat and your body, your liver responds with a surge of this powerful growth-promoting hormone that can drive cancer growth throughout the body. Heme iron makes red meat red, but it also increases the risk of stroke and cancers. And the animals in the feedlot are fed bushels of grains that are sprayed with pesticides and herbicides. They drink water with lead and mercury and cadmium. They're given hormones and antibiotics as growth promoters. All these substances concentrate in the animal's flesh. When you bite into that chicken breast or that steak, you're eating all the accumulated concentrated contaminants that animal ate during its life. This is what flows through the body after every meat-based meal. I could spend 2 lectures on the details of this. I call it the postprandial red tide. Postprandial means after eating. And so this is the after eating red tide that flushes through the tissues. It's a fatty tide, it's a salty tide, it's a sugary tide, it sets off immune reactions, it's full of sulfates and phosphates that create acids in the body that your bones have to deal with. It damages your genes, it's mutagenic, it's carcinogenic, it sets off cancers, it's atherogenic, it clogs your arteries, sets off inflammation throughout the body and damages enzyme reactions throughout the body. This is the truth of the red tide that people eating the standard American diet inflict on their tissues every 4 hours, day after day, year after year. And if you eat 3 meals a day, that's over 1,000 times a year. You've flooded the red tide through your tissues. So what happens when we change to an animal-based, from an animal-based diet to a meat-based diet? Again, before we get into the actual specifics of this, I'm saying that these repeated red tides are at the the underlying mechanism of the most common diseases we see: the obesity, the clogged arteries, the high blood pressure, the diabetes. It's not etiology unknown. I believe it's the repeated red tides that are really at the root of the engendering of these diseases. So what happens? The person, our loved one or ourselves, finally you wake up that morning, you get out of the shower, you look in the mirror and you hate what you see. You say, I'm tired of being fat. I'm tired of being in pain all the time. I'm tired of a medicine cabinet full of pills. I'm tired of my joints hurting. And my doctor's telling me I should try a plant-based diet. My spouse is telling me, I've seen TV shows saying, I go, okay, I'll do it. For 6 weeks, let me give this plant-based thing a try. And the person really commits. They don't just dabble. Well, I'll put more lettuce on my burger here. They really go, as they say in New Zealand, they go boots in. Okay. And they adopt a true north style of eating oatmeal and fruit for breakfast, lunches and dinners of the salads and the soups and steamed veggies and the stews and the soups and the chilies, etc. What happens when they make that transition? Well, here is what happens. First of all, the red tide that is causing damage every 4 hours through the body. When the person says, I'm done, I'm having oatmeal and fruit this morning and I'm not looking back. As soon as you make that committed change, what happens? All the red tide marauders, they're gone. The onslaught stops. There is respite. Every cell in your body, every tissue in your body knows how to repair itself, but those mechanisms cannot come into play if the red tide is flushing through your tissues every 4 hours. When you go to a whole food plant-based diet, rice and beans and greens and fruits and veggies and all that implies, now tissue healing can happen. The interference stops. And instead of the red tide marauders, they are replaced by a benevolent surge of molecules going through every tissue in your body. Here is what happens. Here is what changes. Here's the money slide. First of all, we pull out all the animal flesh, the dairy, the oils, the sugars, the processed foods, etc. And these are the foods we are now running through our tissues. What happens? First of all, this has now become a high water content diet. In burgers and fries, and a steak and a chicken breast, there isn't much water. But you're eating soups and salads and steamed veggies and fruits. There's a lot of water in those soups and the salads, steamed vegetables. So now more water is coming into the tissues. There's a surge of water, flushes through the tissues with every meal. Well, this pulse of water goes through your tissues. It's like taking your cells to the car wash, and meal after meal starts flushing out cellular molecular debris, oxidized starches, dead proteins, etc. You get cleaner on a cellular level. But also, the blood with its higher water content becomes less viscous. It's more free-flowing blood. And that is a very important feature, especially when you combine it with the fact that all these dark green leafy vegetables are full of nutrients that make the artery walls increase their production of nitric oxide. And that's going to make the blood vessels dilate a little bit. Well, not only does that subtle dilation of the arteries lower the blood pressure, we can start getting these people off their blood pressure pills, but the slightly dilated arteries now allow this now less viscous blood to surge through the capillary beds and flood the tissues with oxygenated blood, with more nutrients to carry waste products away. So it's a great combination of less viscous blood and with dilated arteries. That alone brings a great healing benefit to the body. But it doesn't stop there. As I mentioned, less blood viscosity means more nutrient and oxygen delivery, but also pulling out the animal flesh You have pulled out all the arachidonic acid, and this is a major driver of inflammation throughout the body. And as you pulled out the inflammatory fats, what you substitute, now all the fats in the diet are coming from plant oils. Now, from the avocados and walnuts and nuts and seeds, hemp seeds, flax seeds. And many of the oils from the plants are in the omega-3 family, and they have an anti-inflammatory effect. So you've changed the inflammatory balance in all the tissues. They've gone from a pro-inflammatory to an anti-inflammatory balance in all the tissues of the body. How remarkable is that? Now, a lot of damage happens in the body due to free radicals, those ROF, reactive oxygen species. These are these free radicals. These are atomic terrorists. They are atoms that have lost an electron. They've had an electron ripped off, and now they want to replace that missing electron by ripping an electron off any passing molecule, including your DNA, your cell membranes. These free radicals, these reactive oxygen species, are really molecular terrorists. And you don't want them loose in your tissues. They cause a lot of damage. Well, the beauty of all these colorful fruits and vegetables, they're filled with antioxidants that happily donate electrons to these free radicals. And so they quench the free radicals, and that lowers the oxidative stress throughout the body. That is a huge benefit. When you change the food stream going through the intestine, you're going to change the microbes that live in that intestine. If you're eating meat and dairy and fish and oils, you're going to summon up microbes like the Bacteroidetes species. And these are not friendly guys. They drive inflammation. They promote cancer growth in the colon wall. Well, when you pull the animal flesh out, and now you have a nice plant-based food stream, especially with all the resistant starches that's in the legumes and the beans and the rice and the lentils. The Bacteroidetes bad actors, they're going to recede in numbers and potency, and the beneficial microbes, the Prevotella, they're going to increase with their anti-inflammatory, anti-cancer effects. That's a huge benefit for the body, but also it turns out that these Prevotella microbes put out byproducts like serotonin and norepinephrine and dopamine. These are feel-good chemicals that get into the brain, and people notice, yeah, I feel better since I went plant-based. That's right. That's not a placebo effect. That is a gift from your new population of GI microbes. When you stop eating other animals' cholesterol, your own blood lipids are going to become less atherogenic. That's got to be helpful, especially for people with histories of heart attacks and strokes in their family. The fats in our diet work their way into our skin oils. And if you're eating meats with lots of molecules like corpusine and putrescine, they get out into the skin oils and oxidize and leave you smelling like the Green Bay Packer locker room at halftime. But as you pull out the animal fats, and now only plant oils are going into these skin oils, the guys often say, hey, my wife says I don't smell anymore. That's true. Body odor often fades away in a plant-based diet. If you are consuming dairy products, almost all the cows in the dairy in your noble state, they are now pregnant. They've been genetically modified to give milk all through their pregnancy. So the milk and the products made from them have high levels of estrogen, estradiol, and estriol. They are filled with growth factors, and this can stimulate the production of breast lumps in women and fibroids and uterine tumors. And in guys, these estrogens make the prostate gland unstable. Well, you pull out the dairy and the hormone levels normalize. High protein diets are not friendly to the kidneys. They force the kidneys to go into a state of what's called hyperfiltration. They can damage the kidneys as years go by. And people often see their kidney function improving on a whole food plant-based diet. The asthmatic folks notice their mucus is less thick, so they wheeze less. We notice the white blood cell counts are going down, but in a good way, not to increase the risk of infection, but actually when you're not praying the bone marrow with endotoxin 3 times a day, the white blood cell counts go down to normal 2,500, 3,000. That's a good thing. So look what happens with that change from an animal-based diet to a plant-based diet. What changes in the body? In one word, everything changes in the body on every level, in every cell, every tissue of the body. It goes from a pro-inflammatory state to an anti-inflammatory state, and every organ system benefits. I could spend 2 lectures just on this slide going through the specific benefits that each organ system experiences by that change to a whole food plant-based diet. I'm going to be talking about angina and clogged arteries in a minute here, and type 2 diabetes. So let's quickly talk about how a plant-based diet reverses plaque. We all know that the biggest killer in this country is atherosclerotic plaque formation. One of these inflammatory plaques in the arteries ruptures. Every 40 seconds, someone in this country goes down with a heart attack and dies because a plaque in the artery wall is ruptured, setting off a clot. The clot stops the blood flow through the heart arteries, and the downstream muscle dies in a heart attack, and the person often follows as well. Blood flow blockages also promote mini strokes in the brain as well. These white patches are scar tissue from mini strokes from the same process. If you've been eating the American diet for more than 50 years, you have this disease, and running a marathon will not burn this plaque out of the arteries. The marathon runners who eat the standard diet have just as bad plaque in their arteries as the non-runners. So how do we make sense of this? Here's my professors of natural eating. We have basically the same digestive system that our gorilla and bonobo cousins have, and they're up in the trees eating leaves and fruit all day. And they do not develop clogged arteries. They do not develop type 2 diabetes. They do not become obese, despite their high carb diet here. We've got basically the same digestive system. And I'll just remind us the atherosclerotic plaque formation in the walls of the artery is a disease. This is not natural aging. This should not occur. So why does it develop? This is not just a matter of a high LDL level. This inflammatory lesion. These arteries are being injured. What is injuring them? Well, surprise, surprise, this delicate endothelial lining shown here is meant to, if people are just eating rice and beans and greens, that doesn't, boiling rice does not create free radicals. Steaming broccoli does not create free radicals. But once you start grilling the chicken and frying the burger, you're going to create lots of free radicals, lots of oxidized cholesterol. If you like French fries and onion rings, these are sponges for the fryer oil that sits all day boiling these long chain omega, these long chain cheap vegetable oil molecules that break apart and they teem with free radicals. If you eat meat, you're going to generate uric acid. That damages the endothelial lining. If you've got a sweet tooth, the fructose damages the endothelial linings. If you like cola drinks, the phosphoric acid that gives Coke the bite on your tongue will damage the lining of the arteries. Here you see the red tide at work, damaging the artery walls. This is not a random event. This is artery abuse. And once the endothelial lining is damaged, then the oxidized cholesterol from frying the chicken and grilling the burger works its way into the walls of the arteries. It gets engulfed by these macrophage cells, and that's where the plaque formation comes from. It's from the oxidized cholesterol. It's not just a matter of high LDL levels. Now, most cardiologists believe that, listen, once you're at this stage, nothing stops it. It is relentlessly progressive. And many cardiologists believe that there's nothing you can do about it. But the truth is, it is actually reversible, as Dr. Esselstyn has shown us, and I'm sure you've seen these studies before. But let me just go into the mechanism about why a plant-based diet and how it reverses it. We know Dr. Esselstyn recommends a whole food plant-based diet. So what is the mechanism? So here's Esselstyn's program, and you all probably could recite this by heart, but for the newbies who are just new to this concept, Dr. Esselstyn, who I just showed you in his book, Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease, says, first of all, adopt a whole food plant-based diet. Stop the meat, the dairy, the oil, the processed foods, all the junk, stop it. And have this classic whole food plant-based diet that I mentioned. But as an added feature, he wants us to have a helping of dark green leafy vegetables at least 2 or 3 times a day, about the size of your fist. Why does he want us to do that? Well, here is the mechanism. Here we are down in the artery wall, and the oxidized cholesterol had been engulfed here and generating a lot of free radicals and turning into this plaque. But once you're on Esselstyn's program, the constant flood of oxidized cholesterol particles stops. This stops. You're now on a plant-based diet. No more oxidized cholesterol outside of your own. That might be, the small amount might be oxidized from sugars, etc. But the red tide stops. That's the most important thing. But second, here comes that helping of dark green leafy vegetables. If you're eating a helping of broccoli or kale or Brussels sprouts several times a day, you always have a fist-sized helping of this in your intestinal wall pretty much all the time. It's like a time-release capsule. And so the antioxidants that are in these greens are constantly being released into the bloodstream. There's a steady supply in the bloodstream hour after hour. And as the weeks go by and the months go by, these antioxidants start seeping into the walls of the arteries. And most of the free radicals have disappeared because the oxidized cholesterol isn't there anymore, and the advanced glycation end products have stopped. But whatever free radicals might still be down there, the antioxidants coming from the greens work their way into it, and they neutralize the free radicals. And with no more free radicals here, the foam cells that had engulfed the oxidized cholesterol, they've got nothing to do, so they leave. The adhesions that are holding them into the plaque, they leave. And you can see on the electron microscopy slides, the foam cells, they leave, they out-migrate. And as a result, the plaques become smaller and smaller and smaller. And the endothelial lining reestablishes itself, not by magic, but because the bone marrow is constantly putting out showers of stem cells that reupholster the arteries and like new paving stones, turn it back into normal artery walls. And most of you have seen this demonstration before. But for those of you who haven't, this is a patient's arteriogram. This is the left anterior descending artery in a man's heart, a 46-year-old surgeon, actually. The entire artery should be about this wide. This is it's filled with arteriogram dye, and the whole artery should be about this wide. But this red-eaten portion here, these are atherosclerotic plaques that are encroaching into the dye column, narrowing the blood flow. This man had severe angina. He already had 1 heart attack. He did not want to go on statins, didn't want a bypass surgery. He stayed on Dr. Esselstyn's diet for 29 months, 2.5 years. And day after day of salads and soups and steamed veggies and those dark leafy greens releasing their antioxidants into his bloodstream. As the months go by, the plaques melt away, and this artery turns into this artery. Same patient, same artery, but look how reversible this is. And if it melted the plaques away in the arteries here, then it did it in the arteries all over his body, and the carotid arteries going to up in his brain, renal arteries going to his kidneys. It's an inside job that has to be done, and a whole food plant-based diet will do it. It's not all that's necessary. Yes, you have to reduce stress. You need enough sleep. You need love in your life. You need a walk every day. Absolutely. The other pillars of lifestyle medicine are important, but it starts with a whole food plant-based diet. This is square one. And I hope you understand now how and why it reverses. Dr. Esselstyn would like us to put a a few drops of balsamic vinegar on our greens. It increases nitric oxide production that dilates the arteries even more and healthies up the artery walls. And just a little dilation of the arteries with this more free-flowing blood means a big increase in blood flow. Poiseuille's law from physics tells us there's a small dilation of the arteries means a huge increase in blood flow, increases by the fourth power of the increase of the radius. And as a result of that, here's what you see. This is a cardiac perfusion scan. This is a man's heart. Red is good blood flow. You can see how choked off the blood flow is here. But just 2 weeks on a whole food plant-based diet, the arteries begin to dilate, that less viscous blood starts flowing in, Poiseuille's law kicks in, blood flow increases significantly, and this perfusion scan turns into this perfusion scan, much better blood flow, much happier heart. This is the power of a whole food plant-based diet. I saw this in 1977, this report of a man with severe angina, went on a whole food plant-based diet, and 6 months later, he's climbing mountains with no angina pain. And arteries all over the body open up, much to the delight of people at home. Oops, sorry. So I'm just going to run through some other basics here. There's getting to be a significant literature supporting the reversal properties of a whole food plant-based diet. And in the literature is showing that the various mechanisms by which this is true. Dr. Esselstyn's study group, almost 200 patients who went on his diet for 4 years, had essentially no further heart attacks or strokes, etc. People in his control group, over half of them had heart attacks, strokes, etc. This is so potent. How can we ignore this any longer? There's going to be a literature on the reversing of high blood pressure, heart failure, kidney failure. I'm going through these quickly because this talk is being recorded. I'm inviting you to get the recording, come back to the slide, and if you are interested, look up the individual studies and learn what they have to offer. I have quite a number of patients, vegan, long-term vegans in my practice with high cholesterol levels. It's not necessarily a bad or worrisome thing. If you are a long-term plant eater and you still are getting cholesterol of 190 and 220, before you panic and go on statins, go to my website, drklaper.com, and go to the video under resources called Beyond Cholesterol, and I'll go into that phenomenon, why a vegan may have a high cholesterol and what to do about it, what to test for, and what to worry about, what not to worry about. That's a lot of material, and I don't want people's eyes to glaze over. I've been talking for about 40 minutes. I'm going to quickly run through these slides. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this anymore. In my talks on my website, I have this explained in detail, but I just want to point out the key to insulin resistance is fat in the diet. It's not from eating too much sugar. The high sugars are the tail of the dog here. And the nubbin of the issue of insulin resistance was demonstrated in 1927 by Dr. J. Shirley Sweeney. He took healthy young medical students in his medical school class. He taught in his medical school in the Northeast. And he took healthy young men, yes, they were all men back in 1927, and divided them up in two groups. In one group, he for 2 days only, he put them on a high carbohydrate diet. For 2 days, they just ate sugar, candy, pastries, white bread, white potatoes, syrup, bananas, rice. That's a high carb diet. He then, after 2 days of that, to see the effect of all that sugar, did a glucose tolerance test where they gave them 100 grams of sugar in a drink, and 2 hours later checked their blood sugar. And, you know, after 2 hours, your blood sugar should be back down well below 120. It should be in the 100 range or lower. And sure enough, the vast majority of these young men had their blood sugars come down to respectable range, and most of them in the non-diabetic range after eating all this sugar. That's very profound. What was really profound was the young men in the high-fat group. For 2 days, he had these medical students eat a lot of fat, just olive oil, butter, mayonnaise, egg yolk, and cream for 2 days. He then gave them a 2-hour postprandial blood sugar test, gave them 100 grams of glucose, and 2 hours later, every one of them was in the diabetic range. They were all walking around with blood sugars of well over 160, etc. It's the fat that clogged up the insulin receptors, and that was true then, it's true today. And high-fat diets are the driving force behind insulin resistance. If you go on a whole food plant-based diet, the insulin receptors open up and the fat is burned out. If the person is obese, their obese abdomen makes a worse problem. Here is the insulin receptors clogged up on the inside from the fat. Here's these inflammatory cytokines released from the obese abdomen that's interfering with the insulin receptors on the outside. No wonder so many of our obese patients develop type 2 diabetes. Well, the good news is it's reversible. You go on, this is symbolic. I'm not saying you only have to eat broccoli and tomatoes, but you go on a whole food plant-based diet, and the body burns the fat that's already in the muscle cells, burns that out for energy. As the obesity begins to melt away, these interfering substances, they stop interfering with the insulin receptors. And suddenly the insulin receptors start working again. And as Dr. Barnard showed us, the people on the whole food plant-based diet compared to the Diabetes Association diet, these folks got a better, after a year and a half, we're doing better with their hemoglobin A1C and index of how well their blood sugar is doing chronically. They lost more weight, the folks on the plant-based diet, their lipids got better. And all of us who do lifestyle medicine have patients like Jim, who used to be 100 pounds overweight on 30 units of insulin, went on a whole food plant-based diet. A year and a half later, he's lost 100 pounds. He's running marathons and he's off his insulin. Again, what greater gift could we want for our patients? It forces the doctor to learn this wonderful skill of de-prescribing, how to get patients off their insulin and off their metformin, off their beta blockers. Wonderful skill to have to learn. And again, studies now showing that type 2 diabetes is reversible. Obesity melts away because this diet of whole plant food, the fruits and vegetables, beans, legumes, it's mostly fiber and water. The calorie density is so low. I mean, how much salad can you eat? How many apples can you eat? And it's just the sheer amount of fiber and water people are filling their bellies up with that makes the weight melt away over time. It's an anti-inflammatory diet. Many forms of inflammatory arthritis gets better. Lupus and other autoimmune diseases get better. If you or someone you know and love is suffering with lupus or ankylosing spondylitis, any of these autoimmune diseases, get the book called Goodbye Autoimmune Disease by Dr. Brooke Goldner and follow her along. Go to her website to learn how she reversed her lupus with the whole food plant-based diet. If you have Crohn's disease, if your gut looks like this, I would not recommend. Most of my gastroenterology folks say, it doesn't matter what the patients eat. Let them eat chili dogs, black coffee, and beer. Doesn't matter. Really, doctor, the true north, we put these folks on rice congee and mashed bananas and melon chunks and squash, papaya, and they got better. And because the red tide is brutal to an inflamed gut wall. No wonder these folks who are inflicting this onslaught on their gut wall meal after meal often have their gut wall. He gets pretty angry about it. But you get these folks on a vegan and vegetarian diet. And here's a study where folks with Crohn's disease were put on a plant-based diet just hold your meeting down to a little bit once or twice a month. And they got tremendous benefit. 2 years later, the majority of them were still in remission after 2 years. It's the place to start if you have colitis or Crohn's disease. The asthmatic folks, as I said, often notice great improvements, especially when the dairy protein is removed. The folks with the psoriasis and the eczema often notice those get better. But most doctors don't know anything about it. We're not taught about it in nutrition. It's not respected as a discipline, and they don't ask about it on the national board exams, and the young docs are eating the same foods themselves in the hospital cafeteria. They're not going to tell their patients not to eat it. And as a result, many patients are suffering from diseases and treatments that they really don't need to be enduring if their doctor knew enough to get them on a whole food plant-based diet. And now we don't do it like that. We just do pills and surgery. It's called pharmacosclerosis. And it's a real tragedy because they're depriving their patients of reversal of these diseases. The system would save trillions of dollars in heart attacks not had, strokes not had, rehab not needed to be done, surgeries not need to be done. And everyone would benefit, not just the humans, but the animals and the planet. There would be priceless, the benefits, and yet we ignore this. It doesn't cost anything to choose the bean chili instead of the beef chili. You know, people say, oh, it'll crash the economy. No, it won't. And it would save the planet. Don't have time to go into that. People are demanding it. Now here's Congressman James McGovern, Massachusetts, passing a resolution calling for nutrition education in medical schools. The whole concept of disease reversal. I wish someone had put that in my head when I was a med student. This is the concept I'm trying to get into the heads of medical students now. Disease reversal through plant-based nutrition. There is now a journal, international journal based on this. Wayne State University is requiring their first year med students take a course in plant-based nutrition. Yay, Wayne State. Tell the docs, if you're interested to learn the basics, go down the website of the University of Winchester and take their 6-week course in plant-based nutrition. You will learn a ton. I did. Now, they now have residency programs in lifestyle medicine. There's a free course that's available to all doctors to take a 5-hour course in lifestyle medicine, including food as medicine. Some respectable books now. Here's Plant-Based Nutrition in Clinical Practice, filled with references. I recommend this to all healthcare practitioners, as well as Dr. Sarai Stancik's book about what's missing from medicine. She talks about her exploits with a plant-based diet. Excellent books by Brenda Davis, the dietitian, and Dr. Sherzai's, who recommend plant-based diets to prevent Alzheimer's. Anyone would like my 4-page guide on healthy eating, go to drklaper.com, click on answers, and download my health supporting eating plan. You'll find lots of resources. Each one of these websites holds an education for the young doctors. I recommend all my young docs go to each of these websites and see the videos, read the articles. Geisinger Medical School is now promoting whole food plant-based diets. It's not too late, not too difficult. If you haven't seen Forks Over Knives, not only go to that website and see the film, but then go back to their website and check in with their transition plans. They've got plenty of recipes. It's not hard and it's not expensive. The Plantrition Project is working to bring plant-based doctors together from around the world through their in-person and virtual conferences. I'll be in Desert Hot Springs this year. American College of Lifestyle Medicine, I'll be in Denver at their conference. They promote whole food plant-based diets, as does the Physicians Association for Nutrition. Yet doctors say, listen, I don't know anything about nutrition. I don't get paid to do this counseling. I have time to do it. The message is you don't have to, doctor. There are trained professionals who will do this counseling for you. There are getting to be more and more plant-based dietitians around the country. And they will be happy to do this counseling for us. A plant-based diet can provide ample amounts of protein and fiber. Do you have to be completely plant-based? No, small amounts of meat in a diet probably won't make lightning come out of the sky, but you won't get the fullest benefit you would have if it was completely plant-based. The greater change of foods based on whole foods, the greater the benefit you're going to get from the health. Your body is never not looking. There's no fooling it. It knows what you're eating. And moderation kills. People say it's expensive to eat this way. No, it's not. The staples that provide the calories and the protein are cheap. You can get a 10-pound bag of rice for a little over $6.50, 10 pounds of lentils for a little over $12, and that will feed a person for a month. For 63 cents a day, and the assistance programs pays for this for less than $20 a month. You can feed any adult an abundantly stable, health enhancing diet. Bring the family in, members, ask them what their favorite foods are, and turn out a plant-based version of that. And for restaurants, I eat before I go. It's nobody's business what I order for lunch. And those folks aren't paying my medical bills. I have a nice meal with my friends, and then I leave before the dessert cart comes around. And I urge my patients, stop kidding ourselves about what we're eating, about all the salt and sugar and meat, and what it does, how few fruits and veggies we eat, how that causes insulin resistance. The idea that being obese is a state of health. No, it's not. It's a state of inflammation. Alcohol is a poison to all the tissues in the body. Drinking enough water, getting enough sleep is important. Moving every day is important. Get out in nature and drop the toxic emotions that we carry, the resentfulness, the fear. Time to do a 180 on each one of these factors. It should be obvious. And come back to this slide and recheck the strategies available to you. Help is available. The folks at Rochester Lifestyle Medicine, the folks here in Milwaukee will help you make the transition. There's lots of jumpstart programs available. Love Life Telehealth. Well, you can have a plant-based telehealth doctor. Go to Love Life Telehealth and find a good doc there. So lots of jump starts and impetus to get going. Come back to the slide and check out the programs available. You can do this. My regular patients do this. So we're at the end. Once you look behind the curtain, you can't pretend you don't know what's behind the curtain. Well, what's behind the curtain is a lifetime of better health. That's all. So we urge you to get on the plant-based train. This is what I'm trying to get into the heads of these young medical students through our nonprofit Moving Medicine Forward organization. I want to go to the medical schools and give the students the lecture I wish someone had given me 50 years ago, that most of the diseases you're going to be treating are reversible with a whole food plant-based diet and healthy lifestyle. Before you order another $1,000 scan, another $500 set of blood tests, ask the patient what they ate yesterday. And if it's full of burgers and buffalo wings, that's why they're sitting in front of you, doctor, overweight, diabetic, hypertensive, clogged up and inflamed. And if you send them to the plant-based dietitian, let her do the counseling, let her show the videos, let her take them shopping. You see them back in a month, see if they're not healthier in a month later, they will be. That's how medicine should be practiced in the 21st century. And I want to put that model in the heads of the young medical students before pharmacosclerosis sets into their brains. So if you're interested, go to movingmedforward.com and see what we are doing. So that's the message I've been delivering. That's exactly how plant-based nutrition will reverse diabetes, reverse clogged arteries. And with that, we have some time for questions. So I will turn it back to my esteemed host. I know that was a lot of stuff. But hopefully something went by that made you say, oh, is that how that works? And reinforce your desire to stay on that plant-based train. Nothing good on the animal cars going back the other way there. Don't get on that train. Questions?
My goodness, that was a lot of information. You packed so much valuable information in one spot. And as you mentioned, as you were going through this, this is being recorded. It's going to be posted. It should be posted next week. Just go to YouTube and pump in PBNOW, and you should see it on there. And I certainly intend to go back myself. One of the people that you showed there, for those who are not plant-based and would like to do plant-based, if you're willing to spend a little bit of money to have an expert guide you through this, Rochester, where in August we have Dr. Ted Barnett speaking to us, who is the head of that program. So make sure that you tune into that if you haven't already contacted them, if you choose to do that. Now let's jump and see if we've got some questions here, and I know we've got one. Let's see, Michael asked, it said, you mentioned Crohn's and eczema and veg diets. Any comments about celiac disease? And then there was a part 2 to this. Says so many of the gluten-free commercial foods are high calorie, high carb, and sometimes high veggie fats.
Indeed, and the answer was in the question there. Again, the litany, it all becomes one word every whole food plant-based, but the really whole foods plant-based nutrition is really key, and that cuts through the processed proteins and the fats and the vegetable oils and all that stuff. Eat what grew out of the garden in all sorts of forms: grains, legumes, lentils, beans, peas, chickpeas, fruits, etc. Keep your diet on that. And then also, if you've got celiac disease, you by definition are gluten intolerant. Stop the flour products of all types, all the baked goods, the breads, the pastas. Stop. Can you do rice pasta? And so, yeah, there are non-gluten pastas you can work with, but stop kidding yourself. If you really got an active episode of celiac disease or Crohn's disease, yank out all the flour products. So you'll do better without them. So yes, celiac disease, a gluten-free, whole food, plant-based diet is the treatment for celiac disease. Correct.
Excellent. There's a question here. Could you repeat the sources for plant-based dietitians? And before you do that, I'll just mention this. I think 2 months ago, maybe we had Joy Lenz on, and she is relatively local. She's in the Lake District. For whoever put that up there, if you're in Milwaukee Metro based, she's around here. And she does one-on-one, either in person or remote, and she has classes that you can, which is a good way to join it, where you're doing this along with other people.
Right. I don't know if you can see my screen here, but just for the fun of it, can you see? Let's see.
We can see the screen.
You cannot see your screen.
Oh, we can.
With Google, can you see Google here? When he asked, where do you find plant-based dietitians? Ask Dr. Google. Just go plant-based dietitians in Milwaukee. And let's see who shows up here.
We got vegan.
Right. So there's plenty of plant-based dietitians. Seek and ye shall find is the answer to that question there. So so
by the way,
help available. Yes.
Plant Joy was up there for Amberley, who was speaking, the plant-based chef earlier. So that's a way to begin eating plant-based. And let me just check here. He spoke to a group. Allison Tierney is a plant-based dietitian located in Oconomowoc. That's true. She spoke to us prior as well. Let's see. It says, can this help with DVT? Do you know what DVT is? I'm not sure.
Yeah, deep vein thrombosis. It depends what's causing the DVT. If there's artery disease or vein disease, you got varicose veins, etc. That should be dealt with by a vein specialist. But yes, in general, again, thick viscous blood clots more easily. Now, these are clots in the leg veins of DVT. Well, as I mentioned, as you go plant-based, your blood's less viscous, it's more free-flowing, it's less likely to clot. And so whatever else you need to do to work with the vascular surgeon or the cardiologist or whatever, yes, get on that high water content plant-based diet, get that blood free-flowing and as less inflammatory as possible. And it's got to help. Will it magically cure all your problems? Probably not. But it's square one to really controlling that problem.
You see if there are any other questions here. I have a question or a few questions for you here. You've been a physician for multiple, for many years, and I know 50 years, and you mentioned once before that you've seen families where you've actually started with somebody, then they had a family, and the wife was plant-based through pregnancy, the children were plant-based throughout their lives. I wonder if you can comment on that at all, kind of anecdotally, the health of from pregnancy to birth through adolescence through senior years.
Yes, when I was a young doctor in the 1970s, general practice in Vancouver, I was doing lots of home deliveries, and word got around that I was vegan, and a number of vegan women found their way to me, and they were all distraught because they were pregnant. They're vegan, and they're all getting bombarded by their family. Oh, you're going to be vegan during your pregnancy. That baby's going to be undernourished. You're going to come out weighing 2 pounds, and you're going to have all sorts of health problems. And the mothers were all distraught. I said, listen, you just stay on your healthy diet. But yeah, have an extra hummus sandwich, have an extra scoop of lentil stew. Be generous with the protein. Have lots of salads, etc. Watch your B12 and all that. Well, I've delivered over a dozen of these women. Every one of them had model pregnancies. They went through their pregnancy and no one had high blood pressure, no one had preeclampsia, no one had urinary tract infection. When they went into labor, they all had picture book labors. Labor is never a party, but none of them needed cesarean sections. None of them needed forceps. None of them had big vaginal tears. And these babies come out, and every one of these gorgeous kids came out 6, 7 pounds, vigorous cries on them, healthy young babies. These were picture book pregnancies all the way through the delivery. And so right away, that concept got shattered, that ill-fitting, inappropriate concept. And then these kids grow up. They were breastfed till about age 2, and then transferred on to rice and beans and greens and high calorie dense food, nut butters and bean spreads and hummus, etc. And watch these kids grow up into strapping young men and beautiful young women. And a couple of them married other vegan partners, and they had vegan kids. I watched a second generation of vegan children grow up, and they're bright and alert despite all the static that the families put on them. And now I'm old enough that a third generation of these vegan folks are growing up there. And then it's just a ringing validation that, yes, this is a reasonable way to run a human body. You can raise a Homo sapien child on a whole food plant-based diet. They turn into healthy, bright, physically intact human beings. This whole idea we're going to be protein deficient, and it doesn't happen. And so I really urge prospective parents to read up about it. There's lots of books available now on how to do a successful vegan pregnancy and raise a vegan child. But it was one of the most exciting discoveries in my early medical years to see how well these kids do.
But then when they get to be adults, then they're not on medications, right?
Exactly, and it's a gift beyond measure to these kids because they grow up into, they don't become obese, they don't develop high blood pressure, they don't develop clogged arteries, they don't develop diabetes. They turn into normal, lean, healthy people again. I tell them, go live your life, man. Don't get involved with doctors. Don't be a patient. Just go. You're healthy. Go take full advantage of that. So you're absolutely right that they're healthy people.
Valerie followed up with it says, will a DX of benign SPD benefit from plant-based eating? ? I'd like to get off my statin.
Yes, this will a diagnosis of benign supraventricular tachycardia that she's getting rapid heartbeats. Could it help? It could help. So yeah, make it already. And there's a number of reasons why it could help: more potassium and less inflammation in the pacemaker cells. There's a number of reasons why it could help. So absolutely do it. And if you're on a statin, once you're on the plant-based diet for a good 6 months, 12 months, it's a reasonable thing to do to talk to your doctor about getting off the statin, taper it off. And again, go to my website, drklaper.com, and see my video Beyond Cholesterol. It'll explain why you may have a high cholesterol.
My class, picking up an earlier question, is there any evidence for epigenetic benefits of a plant-based diet to following generations? Any molecular marker studies?
I'm sure there must be. How can there not be? We now know that when a woman is pregnant and she's got a female baby developing in there, that female baby has little ovaries, and in her little ovaries are all the 500 eggs that little baby is going to ovulate during her life as a mature, reproductively active woman. So every time that woman, and this is a bad example, but that's the point, every time that woman who is pregnant with a female child takes a drink of alcohol, it's not only affecting her brain and liver, etc. It's certainly getting into the brain and liver of that baby that she's carrying, but it's also getting into the eggs that's in the ovaries of that fetus, and so she's affecting her grandchild who's in that ovary already. So this is a negative. Here's epigenetics at work in a horrific way. Well, the opposite is true. Every salad this woman eats, every helping of blueberries, and all the rice and beans and greens and healthy microbiome she's wanting, all of that is flowing through her pregnant baby, the baby she's pregnant with, and that baby's ovaries. And of course, that's going to affect the epigenetics in a good way. So absolutely everything we do, every meal we eat, washes through our cells, washes over our DNAs, and plays our DNA like a piano. It turns genes on and turns genes off, induces enzymes, shut enzymes down. That's epigenetics at work. Every meal changes us. It brings in not only nutrients, it brings in information. And that is how epigenetics works. So the answer, yes. It certainly affects the epigenetics of future generations. It's an exciting science that they're going to learn more and more about every year.
Excellent. And we're a little bit over, so I'm going to there's one last question
Okay.
here they'll ask, and then I'm going to mention a couple things before we go. What veggies increase nitric oxide, and it follows that's supposed to be good, right?
Yes, it is. Nitric oxide is the fountain of youth for your arteries. And to make a long story short, dark green leafy vegetables, the kale and chard and Brussels sprouts and broccoli, etc. As I mentioned, a little balsamic vinegar will even increase the nitric oxide production. So at least once a day, have something with dark leafy greens and put a little balsamic vinegar on it, and you'll be doing good things for your arteries.
Outstanding. So very quickly, everybody, our next monthly meeting will be Thursday, July 13th at 6 p.m. Central Time. If you'd like to receive notice of this or other upcoming PBNOW events and are not on our list, just Google us at pbnow.org. click the Learn More button to register, and you'll get notice of our upcoming events. Also, remember, if you'd like to check out our past meetings, as Dr. Klaper mentioned, just go to to YouTube, type in PBNOW or pbnow.org, and then hit videos, and that'll give, I think we have 30 some up there right now. But Dr. Klaper should be up about mid next week. You can skim through them and go to your favorite part. Thanks again to our featured speaker, Dr. Mike Klaper, and to Amberly Childs for their valuable time and the knowledge they shared with us tonight. Good night, everybody, and thanks for coming.